we're going to talk about the life cycle of a realtor. But first, I'm Tamara Gady, Director of Collin County Sales for Lawyers Title. If you love my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's have a conversation about your title needs. My information will be in the comments below. Please reach out to me and let me know how I can help you. I'm really excited about our show today. I have two amazing guests with me. They're not just realtors, but they're also really good friends of mine. Jeff Updike, he's a Dallas-based broker that's been in the real estate business for 30 years. And then I also have Weston Pugh, who's been in the real estate business and in the Dallas area for about 14 years now. Together, they make Updike Pugh. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So glad you're here today.
We are
I'm really
too.
excited about our topic. So before we ask the first question about the actual topic that we're going to talk about, because it is what I'm going to ask you about is based around everything we're going to talk about today. How did you guys become Updike Pugh? Why don't you share with the audience really quickly how that happened?
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
So Jeff had been in real estate for how many years prior?
15 years or so.
15 years. And I had just recently moved to Dallas and was in new home sales. That did not pan out. Won't name the company, but not worth it. And I didn't understand that every new agent was really sought after by brokerages. And so I knew him through one of our good friends, Ashley Conlon. And I just went up to him and I said, hey, are you hiring? And he was like, yes. I said, well, I'm getting my real estate license. I'll be back in about 6 months. And 6 months later, I showed up. That's how it started.
Ready to go.
Yep.
And you guys were with Remax at the time.
That's
that
correct.
was your brokerage,
Yep.
Remax in Uptown.
Yes.
I remember because I had a lot of fun times at your brokerage.
We did have a lot of fun time.
Yeah.
Back when everybody was in Uptown, Area 17 was like really fun,
Yes.
full of life. It was also during, I think, when 2008 and 9, and it was kind of tough. And so we had a lot of time to hang out with everybody, and that's how we made so many good friends back then.
That is I'm telling you, I don't know how affiliates do it today.
I don't either.
I had the best time coming into the business in 2009 and 2010. I mean, I had the margarita man on speed dial, the taco man, the hamburger man, ice cream man, and we would just go to MLS meetings in the morning, go to tour, have some, and then set up at a broker open
I know.
from 1 to 3 and just have a fabulous time hanging out. That's how I mean,
That's
you
how
guys had the
everyone
time
did.
to build relationships back then. And so people have asked me over the years, like, how in the world do you know Weston and Jeff and Chris and John and all the other big names that are in Dallas real estate? And I said, because we sat at a broker open from 1 to 3 and drank margaritas.
And met each other.
This isn't a beer right now. I mean, come on.
Well, and it is really interesting. I mean, this is a little off topic, but you know, how we came up in the business is not how you come up in the business now.
That's true. Very true.
So
It's always kind of evolved. It was, 30 years ago, it was a different way to come up in it. 15 years ago, it's different. Today, it's different. It's one of those things that I think just changes all the time.
Because you're right, because back in the day, you were so dependent on that up phone taking calls. And so the broker could kind of conduct and control who did that by, did you go on tour? Are you supporting our vendors? There were requirements before you actually got to sit on the desk. And today, with the internet and with social media like we have right here, that's not as important. And so it's really a different way to cut your teeth and get in the business. I don't know if it would be very different right now to get into it. It would be harder, I think.
And I have these conversations with our new sales reps that have come on board. They've all been experienced in the business, but they're struggling trying to get their businesses up and running. And I don't know how you would do that right now because you guys are exhausted. And even though inventory is really tight and interest rates are going up, your hair is still on fire all of the time. And how much time do you have to sit down with a new affiliate that calls you up and asks you to go to coffee or lunch? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's hard to not do that because I think we all reflect back on what we had to go through to be successful in it. And so when you have somebody that calls and they've got a genuine tone in their voice and they really just want to meet you to get their face out there, it's hard not to do that, but it's you also just have to manage your time.
I agree. I call you guys realtor unicorns. We know you're out there, but we don't really ever see you.
But I think like even today's date, I think that like when we see new agents come into the business and become successful, those agents have a life prior to real estate. And so like they were a teacher or they worked as a nurse or they worked at CBRE. And so they have this database and this outpouring of connections that allow them to like step into it and make connections and start helping people buy and sell houses. But if you're just stepping out of college and think that this is it and it's easy and the market's hot,
Yeah.
well,
I think it's going to be a really
tough.
big challenge. Yeah. And so you kind of tapped into it. So let's kick off our first question. You know, we're going to talk about just starting out the first 3 years. What does that look like? Yeah, I know. Aren't you so glad we're not there right now?
if I had known how hard it was going to be when I stepped into it, I don't know that I would have done real estate.
And you know, I think you came into the business at such a great time because it was so difficult.
So scary.
It was so difficult, and it really, I think, people that came in at that time really had to work very hard to build a business. And so, as the business has gotten easier, got better, you know, the market's gone up. The ones that come in, like over the last couple of years, while they may have been doing business for the last couple of years, I think some of them may struggle as the market begins to shift, and maybe we go into just a little bit slower market.
And we'll start to see, you know, you start to see a lot of new agents jump on teams for the safety net that a team can provide. And then it's just a part of the business. We'll see a bunch of them wash out.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how do you get started? Can you reach that far back?
Well, you know,
You've been doing this a long time.
The thing that I think is similar to when I started to right now is you have to have those relationships. You know, it's that first year, like Weston was saying, people that come into this business as a second industry or a second career life really have an advantage because many times they've made the connections that they need to make. They've also demonstrated their professional ability in whatever their other industry was. So I think that's really one of the key components in coming in right now is you have to be connected genuinely to a group of people.
The community.
One of the things that Jeff had in play, I'll just jump in real quick, as a new agent, Jeff had several developments that he represented when I first got on with Remax. And so I just assumed that I had to go to work every day and had nothing to do, but I would go sit in the model home all day, every day. And he was like, "You're going to do that again?" I was like, "I'm going to do this every day until I get a sale. And then I'm going to keep doing it." And so it was just different. I think elements that are available to new agents that are like that, they should really take advantage of those. And it may not be the most money, but this real estate is a relationship long marathon.
Yep.
That is what it is. If you think it's a sprint, you will be washed out.
Correct. So I think you hit into a couple of key points. First of all, identify that you have a working sphere, right? And who is that sphere? And if you don't know who that sphere is, then let's sit down and talk about, you know, who that is. I mean, it could be everything from your kid's teacher to the soccer coach to the hairdresser to any of your ancillary services or people that come into your home and help you with whatever that is. So identifying your sphere is very important.
Correct.
Yes.
And then you tapped into open houses. Okay.
Yeah, that was a really big benefit for us for a very long time. With the way the market has gone in the last 4 or 5 years, that component's been taken away because you did an open house at one of our listings, and you know it was good neighborhood, well-priced home, and you had 100 people through
100 plus
in
2 hours.
Yeah, and you can't really build relationships, or
you're right.
You know, you're at that point. He said I was really just kind of pointing then.
Yeah,
you know,
and I think too, like when we're talking about like how do we get involved? If you have a family, that's a built-in. But if you don't, I like what I've volunteered. I've done ceramics at Brookhaven, and I played volleyball on a couple leagues. And I will say that each one of those things that I was doing that I wanted to do that was fun, I was able to be my most genuine self and pick up buyers and sellers from that. And so I think, you know, if someone goes into like some type of volunteer work or whatever, and they're doing it just to get clients, that it'll register that way. So you really have to look at yourself and say, like, what is of interest to me, and figure out how can I do that and enjoy my time and making connections.
Perfect. And I agree exactly with what you're saying about the open houses. You know, it's funny because I've seen whole teams go in to hold open houses up north. You know, I've been, and then they recruited me. I'm not coming to your open house.
Why?
But they have brought me in to like just man the table to collect everybody's information because they had 150, 200 people at the open house.
Yeah.
And so there was probably 3 or 4 realtors at that open house, and they were tag teaming just so they could collect all the buyer information.
Wow. I would think that is probably the way you have to do it now. It's just because of the technology in the industry changing and the consumer's availability of information. You know, 15 years ago it was very different, and so consumers really had to come to us.
Yeah.
And now one of the things that is super different is we'll get a call from somebody in our database who says, hey, I've got an interest in this home over here. And, you know, well, first of all, we didn't know you were interested in moving, which is bad on us, I guess. But secondly, they're coming armed with reams of information about that house. And they're saying, so what do you think about it? You know, and all you can do is pull it up in MLS. Well, it was built in 1983.
It's got to take you a little bit off guard that the potential buyer knows way more about the house than you do because the internet's opened that up.
And because inventory right now is scarce, people pivot on a dime. So like they'll tell you I'm only looking below Mockingbird, east of the lake, and they give you like this finite thing. And then 2 weeks later, they haven't found anything. And they're over there in Northwest Dallas. And I'm like, that's Sparkman's Club. What are you doing over there?
Yeah.
No. So you have to be ready. You cannot be a true like farming a single area any longer. So if you're getting into real estate thinking I'm only going to do Lakewood, well, there's 700 others of you that are only doing Lakewood.
Yeah.
Right.
So you really, really need to be wide open to all.
I think there's a balance in what you're saying because I think there's a lot of realtors who say I'm your DFW specialist. And
They are not.
That's too much of a.
They are not.
That's too much of an area. So I agree that you do need to be an expert in particular areas of the metroplex where you plan on selling.
Even the real estate commission has developed a term that they're calling geographic competency.
I learned that in truck legal too.
And it is, I love it because for a long time we did have people from other cities that were realtors in other cities that had a son or a daughter buying up here, and they just wanted to write the contract for them and save them. And, you know, it just made it incredibly difficult. And a lot of times those people did not get the representation that they needed.
Yep. Well, and as a realtor, you can refer that out. And if you want to refund them back your 20, 25% referral commission, by all means.
Absolutely.
And I think for a newbie agent, the thought that you can do this part-time with your other job is you're really not doing your buyers and sellers the justice, because in this market they need you when they need you, and it's not. I mean, even today we almost weren't able to make today because it was like this huge gyration because something happened in an option period. And so if you have like literal constraints geographically that you can't leave somewhere, you can't really service buyers and sellers today.
And on top of that, the sheer cost of being a realtor.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
No, it's not.
Get another drink.
So
kind of back to your question about the like years 1 through 3. Here kind of my little idea of it is the first year you're probably only going to do business with people that you don't know. You may do business with a few you do, but you're going to end up with more people that you don't know. But what a newbie agent has to do is talk about that success to the people that they know, because sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years for the people that you know to feel comfortable referring you or working directly with you themselves, because buying a home is usually the largest investment most people make.
Yep.
And that requires a lot of trust.
Well, and I know from switching companies, it took a while to rebuild that trust, because, you know, there's a lot of reps that jump in and out of title and don't make it, and they come from home warranty. They're like, title's going to be fun. And, you know, it's a hard business that I don't know that a lot of people understand what they're getting into. So I did have a ramp up period of where I have to reestablish myself and prove that I'm going to stay put and prove that you can trust me and my escrow team and all of that. So the same thing goes for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
everybody knows a realtor.
Yep.
Yes.
And so
at least one.
at least one.
least.
Right
At
now,
least one.
right now they all know 5.
Yeah. Let's, okay, so speaking of year one, you go through your pre-licensing classes, you take your test, you pass the test. Well, I went to Champions to get my license with Randall Graham, by the way.
Oh,
Did you know
really?
that?
I didn't know that. No.
Okay, so this is when I was working for Ebby, and Mary Frances
Yeah.
made me go get my real estate license, which was the best gift. I was I don't want to do this, but it turned out to be the best gift. So if you're watching, Mary Frances, thank you.
That is nice.
But she had been bugging Randall Graham for years to go get his real estate license. So we thought it'd be fun to go to real estate classes together. And we sat in the room and just recruited everybody that we wanted.
That's awesome.
But if you ever see Randall Graham, ask him if he has his real estate license because he does not.
You didn't finish.
He finished
Didn't take
and
the
never
test.
took the test. So every, milestone, I did all my SAE hours and
Oh,
my
wow.
PRI, and then I started all my, regular CE hours. I would text him or call him and go, well, did you do? Oh, no, you didn't, because you didn't.
Because you're not licensed. That's awesome.
That's funny.
I didn't even know that. Had not heard that.
So anyway, but my point was, I had to share the funny story, but my point was in Champions, all of these brokers came in and would do their spiels on what they would offer a new agent and how they were going to help them get off the ground. And so let's talk about, how do you choose a brokerage?
Well, I'll say how you don't choose a brokerage is the least expensive one. If that's the whole reason while you're choosing a brokerage, then real estate really isn't for you because there is so much you don't know. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant is basically what I thought the first year was like. Everything from the computer to how to write a contract to like navigating the super log, everything was brand new. Nothing was prior knowledge, zero of it. And so if you're in a group that is just cheap and it's like $10 or we only take a portion of your commission, then that's going to be really difficult for them to be able to provide you the level of training that you're going to need to be successful.
Yeah. Passing the real estate classes teach you how to pass the test.
Yeah.
That's all that's
all.
for.
That is the. That,
terrible.
in my opinion, it does not teach you how to build a long-term real estate business. Which I look at it like you are opening a store. You're opening a storefront somewhere. You've got to come up with product. You've got to come up with your marketing plan. You have to come up with all of your follow-up. It is.
How to write a contract.
Oh my gosh.
How to negotiate a contract. How to work with a buyer. How to terminate a contract.
How to keep from getting sued.
How to keep from getting sued.
That's one of
Preserving your E&O insurance. Yeah. There's all these things. And so give us some pointers when looking for a brokerage for a newer agent.
I think Weston's point is dead on. Number one, don't do it based on price. You select a broker based upon how your business model is going to run and how that broker fits into helping you build that business model. In many instances, it really is just training. We didn't connect with the Ebby Halliday Company until 12 years ago, and we joined through the Dave Perry Miller organization. But Ebby has been known to have the best training program in the industry forever. And I know when I was recruiting for RE/MAX, it was hard for me to recruit people that really knew what they were doing because they wanted to go somewhere that had a really extensive training program. And many times they would end up with the Ebby Halliday Company. And at some point, Ebby began charging people to go through that class because what they would do was people would join Ebby Halliday and then get the training, and then they would go to a different broker.
Oh, I've heard brokers say, go over to Ebby, get trained, and then come over and join our brokerage.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. And it kudos to them for being like to step out there and say, well, we're going to make you pay for this also.
Yeah.
Because I think that really does.
Well, you got some skin in the game then.
You really do.
And you could always I don't know, maybe they refund it after a year or two, but they keep everybody off that 1 month in and out. I think it is good training. The other thing too is like if you know of a certain neighborhood that you want to be in, you should kind of look at the signs in the yard that
I
are
think that's a great
representing
pointer.
and figure out if that's what you want to be. I think so many times we see people want to go into that luxury market, but if you don't have the behind you to kind of do that, you're going to starve. And you need to be with, you can aspire and you can work your way to it, but that's not your first step. Real estate is steps and platforms built on each other. And so it's taking that first really solid step is crucial. And I think getting into a broker that's in the area is what you need to really focus on.
You really do need that, because you're, one of the benefits, or really one of the decisions, I think, in choosing a broker has to be how much credibility is that broker going to bring to you in the marketplace you want to be.
Yep.
And whether that's a geographic area or a business vein, or whatever that is, I think that broker needs to have some exposure in that area as well. Otherwise, you're not only going to be trying to build credibility for yourself, you got to build credibility for the broker that you're with.
And that was one thing, it's funny because now you're reaching back into my archives in my brain when I used to recruit, because that is something that I said is you are not a brand yet.
No.
Nobody knows who you are.
No.
And so you need to have a brand behind you that is recognizable, because it instantly helps you create that trust for people to want to do business with you.
Yep.
And I think we're incredibly lucky here to have some really diverse brands. We have some really good brands, and they offer really diverse business models for people. It's one of the good things about real estate is, there's an opportunity for everyone in this, is if you're really willing to work hard.
And I would like to add that being in real estate, you learn on every single transaction. So you become more familiar with the framework of it, but there will be a wrinkle and there will be something you've never seen before, or the way people negotiate begins to change. Every single time you're going to have to be learning. So if you're a person that likes things to be super click like this is a tough business for you. It is malleable, it is fast, it is fluid, and it is emotional. That's why real estate will never become automated, because of those items.
Yeah.
So
I think it's really interesting that you say that, because a lot of my extremely successful top agents have really zeroed in on all the nuances of the contract. They know that contract better than they've ever known that contract. And they wield every section of it as a strategy in their negotiations.
You have to.
And if you aren't, as a new agent, you don't have that information, that knowledge on every, like I'm talking every blank on the contract is a negotiable point, and they use it.
100%.
And so I think that when you're going up against a very seasoned agent and you're a new agent, that is a really tough stack. And
our contracts are not black and white. There is a lot of gray in our contracts, and I think one of the things that a newer agent needs to do is understand those gray areas and how to use those gray areas to your client's benefit.
Yes, and make sure they don't get used against you.
Yeah.
Because I think that is a spot that a veteran will expose so quickly.
Okay, so to kind of recap a little bit, one thing that a new agent needs to look for is on training to get them where they need to be to handle what's going on in this
100%.
market. But you need to be very versed on contracts, and you need to be very versed on what does get you in trouble and all of these things. And so, places like Ebby, I know Monument has a very extensive new agent training program. And so looking for that new agent training program. And guys, you're going to have to take a moment, because I know it's really hard when you come into this business, you have $0 coming in. And your first thing is, oh my God, I got to get a contract. And you have to go through real estate school. That's dead time, right? And then you're going through new agent training. That's dead time. And so you have a lot of ramp up period. And so this is also, I think, what a golden nugget is. I used to coach agents that you need at least, and this is far too generous in this market, at least 6 months worth of savings. I think you need to be prepared for 9 to 12 months of savings to be able to sustain yourself, pay your bills, and ramp up your real estate business.
Absolutely, because, kind of back to my analogy of opening the store and being responsible for everything, you can't open a store without some kind of capital behind you. You're not going to open the door day one and just have floods of people come in. You're going to have to build that trickle of business, and you need the resources to be able to back that up.
The last tip I would say to newbie agents is to not spend what you have to pay the IRS.
That is huge.
It is, because this is the first time you will realize that you're responsible for your own taxes at the end of the year. And most of the time you have used all that money because you weren't making any money. And so every dollar meant something until now. Not only am I in debt, but I'm also now in arrears on my taxes.
It's a bad, scary place to be.
It is.
Yeah,
it is horrible. And so I would say visit with your office administrator and maybe have them pull that out for you on the side. Some companies will do that. Otherwise, you need to set up your own savings account, and that money needs to go in there, and it needs to be untouched. It is the hardest thing, but it will make the tears so fewer.
Great advice. So let's talk about why you would want to be on a team as a new agent, because we kind of talked about that for like a quick second and then jumped into brokerages. So, we've identified what you need to look for in a good brokerage. And of course, that's getting you set up the right way from the start with training and some offer mentor programs, one-on-one mentoring programs, things like that. So you need to be looking for the training that you need.
Right.
And a lot of new agents we're starting to see them more on seasons one start to jump onto teams for the safety net of what a team can offer.
Right.
So why would an agent join a team?
I
think we have to first clarify, are you joining to be a member of a team, or are you co-founding a team? Because those are two totally different things. Like, he and I are 50-50 on our team, but a lot of times what we're seeing is once a formation of a team happens, they add in additional, basically, buyer's agents is what they're doing, is that they just farm that out. And so you have to weigh that and figure out what you want, your business to be. So,
yeah, my personal opinion of teams is there are way too many teams out there that are not productive and are not going to help agents in the long run. There are teams that do, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but I think many times it's kind of sometimes a last-ditch effort for an agent to think they're going somewhere. Now, the benefit of being on a team is you do have that a little bit tighter feel of camaraderie with a group of people. You don't always get that, especially the last 2 years. You haven't really gotten that from just the general office environment. If there is a lead structure built into that team where you are going to get leads, I think there's a value in doing that. My personal feeling about the way those team structures work is if you join a team like that, you're building the business for the team leaders. You're not really building your own business, because in most cases, if you choose to leave that team, that database people is not coming with you. It's staying with that team. So what you do have to be able to get out of that is the additional training, the opportunity to talk to people where you get those leads, because like you said with the open houses before, that was really where I learned how to say things and how not to say things, because you had people coming in and you knew what tone of voice to go, work best to say hi,
Yep. All the nuances.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
and I've seen, you can tell, I'm privy to a lot of inner workings of a lot of teams. And so you can see the ones that are really successful because their teams don't leave.
Right.
A lot of new agents will jump on teams so that they can gain the additional training and information that they need. And then they leave because they're tired of paying the split.
Right.
And they're like, well, wait a minute, I can make more money out on my own. So you do see a lot of turnover on teams for that reason. But I think the successful team leaders have figured out how to keep their people even after they've been fully trained and they're up and running and fully capable of running their own business. And so there are reasons why an agent that is very successful would join a team, because they don't want to carry all the load by themselves.
That is very
the financial cost, handling all the marketing. A lot of these teams have marketing people, that also do things for the team.
Yeah.
Even simple things like they have a process for opening doors and delivering signs and, all of these things that as a single agent, you have to manage all of this stuff by yourself. And so I can see where alleviating some of that heavy lifting of those, what it's all important, but these kind of day-to-day tasks that you just have to keep doing as a realtor,
Right.
they have infrastructure to handle stuff like that.
The wheel has been developed and it's in motion.
Correct.
So you just get to become a spoke and really help, and that's what it is. So, I mean, they're really important. I think that a lot of times people age out of them, and become their own. Form their own. And I think if you're going to go that route and form your own, I think you really have to look at having a working relationship where both of your skill sets don't lean in the same direction. Like he's much more negotiation, contract, and has taught me all that. And I'm much more like, why does a buyer think like that? How do our listings look? What is our marketing viewpoint? And who are we targeting with this? Like, it's not just a shotgun marketing blast. Like, we're literally looking for someone who has 5% down that wants to live in this area. How do we talk to that person? And so I think that it's important for you to not sync up with someone because they're cool and they're fun, because you're cool and you're fun too, and then you're both doing the same thing, but nobody wants to do this stuff over here.
Oh, you definitely have to find the yin to your yang.
Yeah.
You do.
I think one of the best parts of our partnership is we don't excel in the same way. We have overlap where we do excel, but he's really good at one part of our business, and I'm really good at another part, and we acknowledge that.
Yeah.
You know, I know I am never going to pick another paint color because I'm bad at it, but he,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
that's and
Like, I'll get a
I'm not
contract.
trying to minimize what you do,
But I'll get a contract and I'll say X, Y, and Z in the contract, and he's like, go this way real quick. And he just has 30 years. And I would also say that I would not want to play poker with Jeff because he's just got that in him innately, you know? And so I would say that it's really great guidance. And so everybody's
Well,
fine.
and you guys are very receptive to each other, so I think that's super important. There's no ego in this for you. Well, maybe there is every once in a while, but you know, you guys, you know, maybe you guys are able to put that aside because you just work really well together.
Yeah, and we like each other. I mean,
That's important too.
And mutual respect.
Yep,
Yes.
a lot of mutual respect, and you know, I call us best friends because I don't know that I'm on a friendship basis closer to anybody than he.
Yeah.
And I like it that way because it's like getting up and going to work with your best friend every day. So
It's
why
fun,
not?
yeah.
Yeah, you
know?
trust them.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, there's not there's no hidden angle that I'm unaware of. You know, it's just work. And I think that's the other thing. Sharing a similar work ethic
Yes.
is critical because you need to do like how many vacations do you want to take a year?
Yes.
You know, are you cutting out every Saturday? Because we're in real estate and that's kind of tough.
Yes.
And you have, I don't know, 5 other people that you're obligated to, and I have none. So does that mean I get to do 90% of the stuff?
Right.
And we're doing 50-50 splits. So there are elements. And I think that we are lucky in the fact that our lives are very similar on a personal standpoint. And so when it comes to picking up and lifting, we both can lift the same amount. And that is critical because the rest of the time it creates layers of animosity.
Correct.
And I think we've kind of moved away from like how to make a decision going on a team. No, but we've kind of progressed into, you know, if you do want to form a partnership with someone, you know, what do you look for?
Yeah.
And those are really, you know, the things that work really well in ours. As a broker for many years, I had a lot of people who would say, "Hey, I think I'm going to partner up with, you know, Billy Joe over here, and we're going to sell real estate together." And, you know, 2 months later, that relationship just crumbles and everybody hates each other. And I think for people that are considering going into a partnership, you can do deals together with someone for a few times without, you know, branding and creating this big name.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Test the waters.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes people do get distracted by all of the creation part when you form a partnership with somebody. You know, they want to spend a couple hours working on the logo today, and they want, you know, we got
We need to schedule a photo shoot.
Yeah.
You do not need another photo shoot.
Yeah. Well, and Sharon Harrison used to say, "We're dating, we're not married." Yeah.
Love Sharon.
Exactly right.
Hey, Sharon.
So I think that's a great way to say this. It's okay to go and date someone for a little while before you get married.
Yeah.
We actually worked together without forming our partnership for about a year. But it was like Weston said, I had contacts with a couple of developers that were doing condo conversions, and I had a lot of inventory that I couldn't keep up with. And him coming in from new home sales and, showing up over there every day without me prodding him that was really demonstrating something I needed right then. And,
Yeah, because I wasn't in the process of looking to form up a partnership. Like I was like, hell no, I'm doing this. This is me. I'm doing it. And I remember like one time, it's so funny. I was so tired. I was like, but you got to be there. I went and crawled. I did a George Costanza and crawled under my desk and took a nap. But I was like, I got to be here. And I'll hear that door open. I could be able to jump up, but I was so tired. I was like, I can't leave.
Yeah.
I got to work. So fun.
Well, and I think before I go on to the next quick topic, I do want to tap into something that is a little bit more controversial, and that is the split.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
The commission split. Because I think as a new agent, when you join a brokerage and you join a team, I will tell you that Ebby lost more recruits because another brokerage was selling them on, you don't want to do this 65, 35 split or whatever it is. And they hear you're taking X amount of my commission every time. And then a lot of teams have even more aggressive splits.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important as a new agent that you completely understand what you're getting for your split.
Yes. Yes.
Because and I would ask really in-depth questions to the broker or to the team leader about what it is you're going to provide me. Because if you are a team leader buying Zillow leads, that's thousands and thousands, in addition to the team photos and all of the marketing and all the, all these things.
Staff
and
costs.
all the staff costs. Yes. And they have some of these teams have really massive staff costs.
Yep.
So I think, you really have to understand as a new agent what that broker and what that team leader is alleviating for you. And I think it's really important that some of these team leaders really translate that to the agent, because you're alleviating a lot of heavy lifting for them and freeing them up to be able to just go get a transaction. So
which is really, I kind of look at it from two ways where, I kind of mentioned why I didn't think teams made sense for a lot of people before. But if you are somebody that maybe you don't have the personality to be able to learn everything about running your business at the same time, and you really just want to learn how to work with buyers, that's a team might be the place for you. But you are correct also that you need to know what you're getting for that split, because it is going to be expensive to be there.
And it's a lot of reasons why agents leave. I'm paying this whole split. I don't want to do it anymore.
But I think the other thing too is like, going back to like, don't go to the cheapest person. If you're going to someone based on like, they're only going to take, 20% versus another company's going to take 35. Well, this one that's only taking 20 is not going to teach you anything. So they're going to get 20% of nothing because they didn't teach you how to close a transaction. Whereas over here, they take 35 for a while, but they're teaching you how to close that transaction and build your business. So you tell me which one pot's going to fill up faster,
Yep.
It's just short-sighted. It's a short sell.
I know, but when they're in these meetings with all of these brokers and interviewing them, and a certain, there's brokers out there that are dangling this huge dollar carrot. We're not going to take your money from you.
But they need to follow up with, and we're not going to teach you anything. They need to follow up with that.
Yeah.
I mean, these transaction-based brokerages, I think those are great places for seasoned agents. I mean, it makes,
or ones that are just winding their career down.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I think there's definitely a place for the diversity of brokerages that we have now, but I don't know that I agree that's the spot for the new agent.
So. Or we always laugh because we'll deal a transaction. We're like, so the person is the listing agent and they're also the manager and the owner of the company. And we always go, they can't play nice with others. They just can't.
So let's move into another conversation. And I've seen a lot of my realtors get their broker certificate lately. So we've got a lot of agents becoming brokers. And I've had several clients do it over the last 2 years, especially with COVID, because they had time.
What else do you have time to do?
Right.
So I think we've had an influx in brokers. So why should you be a broker? Why would you want to be a broker? And either stay with a brokerage or start your own shop. Does that make sense? Because there's a lot of brokers that don't break out and do their right.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the education you get from a broker's license really does help you with your business, because you learn deeper aspects of running a brokerage that you may not use, but you begin to understand how that operates and what the responsibility is, and it also helps you know better what to look for when you are making a decision to make a change. Like I went from being a sales agent to being a partner in a company 2 years later, and I got my broker's license in 1996. But I wasn't going to be a managing broker at that point. And then I went to become a managing broker for 5 years, and found out I just didn't like doing that. Mm-hmm. And so that was why we had partnered up, and that was part of why we transitioned over to Dave Perry Miller. Was I didn't want to do all that. I didn't realize it, but I thought that was the natural progression.
You think there's things you're supposed to do as you progress in your real estate career.
But years ago, that was where brokers made all the money. And that was the natural progression.
Absolutely.
You wanted to move in that position and have that downline, But I think that today, the way that the market rotates so fast, that as an agent, you can handle at one point 20, 25 transactions. Well, I'll tell you, when you're handling 20, 25 transactions, you're fine.
Yeah, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So
that's kind of my answer for whether you should get your broker's license or not. I think people should progress to that, because I think there's an extra layer of education that you get. And you also have more flexibility in your career if you decide to do something different.
That's true.
You have instant decision making capability for that.
And there's a difference between being a broker and opening your own shop, right?
Yeah,
Huge difference between the two.
Oh, yeah.
And we had extensive conversations about when you decided to step out of your brokerage and rejoin one of the more recognized brands.
Yeah.
So I think it's, I see a lot of people breaking off and trying to do these indie brokers. And I've had several husband-wife teams that have left their brokerage and started their own shops, not necessarily to build some huge brokerage, but they're fully capable of running their own business, and they just don't need the support of a traditional brokerage or a regular brokerage anymore.
I really think you have to, it's another one of those situations where you really have to be open to digging down into the numbers honestly of what are you going to achieve by opening that on your own. Are you trying to define a new business model, or are you are you trying to create some legacy for yourself? But to me, at the end of the day, if the numbers don't make sense to do it, you're probably doing it for your own ego, and the ego is the thing that's going to cost you the most money every day anyway.
And one of the things that I did was connect them with other people that had already done what they were doing. So I kind of formulated an unofficial list of people, here's who you need to go talk to, because they did it and they can tell you the pros and cons. And I even gave them the name of someone like Jeff, who did their own shop, closed their shop, and went back to a brokerage, because they needed to understand why he did that too, right? And so I think that's, the interview people that are doing what you're wanting to do to see how to do it the right way, or what to look for.
Or did and stopped. Why did you stop? I think asking the question of why you stopped is more important than, because going back to 20 years ago as a broker, we didn't have the same technology requirements that we do today. Like, you need an app, you need to have a website, you need to have an IG account, you need to have a marketing team, you need everything. And it's not like part-time. That stuff needs to be happening all the time.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
It's really a lot more demanding than it used to be, of course. Well, let's talk about your podcast.
Oh.
I was just on it.
You were.
Was that last week?
That was last week. Yeah.
So real estate's moving fast. I just proved the point, because I was like, I don't know when that was.
It was.
I know it's recent. So the name of your podcast is?
Sold with Updike, Pugh.
Okay. And then when does it air?
It airs Wednesdays at noon.
Live.
On Facebook Live and on YouTube Live.
Okay.
But if you can't catch it then, you are welcome to go to our Facebook page, and you can watch every one of our 178 episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
It is.
Yeah.
Heck
You guys are champs.
We've done it for almost 3 years. Is it almost 3 years?
Yeah.
Almost 3 years. And we've only missed, 6 weeks out of 3 years or something like that. We usually take a couple of weeks off during the holidays and we'll replay something. But yeah, it's live and fresh and new every week.
Talk about your format. What do you talk about on your show? Because you do have a consistent format.
Yeah. So we always do, we're in a more of a stand-up scenario with the same number of cameras that you have. And we
I
have
know next time I'm so tall, next time I need to sit down.
No, we actually need to get on the potato box and stand up. It's fine. And we typically highlight 2 of our properties or 2 other properties that are within our company. We'll preview them ahead of time, and then our marketing person takes and creates a reel that we talk over as it's showing on the screen, and we're in the lower thirds. Kind of helps everybody understand, and then we'll bring in the map to talk about what it's near. We'll bring in links and talk about where's the restaurant that we like to go
we've
eat.
eaten at, food, specific things on the menu we like.
Yeah. And
I
then,
know, and I think that's some really, I don't want to skip over that detail because I think that kind of circles back to what we started talking about. It really positions you guys as the neighborhood expert because you've actually taken the time, or you already know what is around this property that would be really fun for people who want to buy this property.
Right.
And so you've even gone so far as to throw up the menus and pick out your favorite wines and food. And I'm like, oh my God, now I'm hungry and I want to go eat there.
and it's supposed to work like that because at the end of the day, we're using this format just like you are right now, but we're talking to people that, might be in Southlake or they might be in San Diego and we don't know where they're coming from. And so we want to tell them, as locals that enjoy this town, we want to show you what we love and what we like to do. And so it's an easy format for us to do that.
I think it really comes across. I mean, you've even highlighted a dry cleaner and all kinds of things you need. The things you need, parks around, things for the family.
Yes.
I think all of that is really important information that you're getting across. And then it makes me want to go to Dallas, but I'm not gonna.
It's a really good. It's a really good way to introduce ourselves to people that don't know us. 85% of our business is past client customer referral, but we still need that 15% to come in, the fresh new people into the database every year. And so even if it's someone that refers, one of our good customers that clients that refer someone to us, in that initial phone call, we'll always say, hey, and if you want to learn a little bit more about us, go over here, and we'll send them a link to the show, and they can kind of hear how we talk, our personalities, realize that we're real people.
And when open houses were a thing, we always had like a set of takeaways from the property, and one of the takeaways wasn't just about the property, it was about the show. And so it kind of fit into everything. And what that did is, even if they didn't go to it, it had the picture with us behind the green screen and the microphones in front of us. So it let you know that we were doing that, plus directions how to get to it. So they did know who we were. And it wasn't like, who are these men that are coming to the house? I'm not talking about that. They already knew how we talked, how we joked, and they understood us more as a friend. Yeah. And that's important.
It's funny how people... I feel like sometimes I get a little surprised at how familiar people are with us after they've seen that, because they've heard us talk if they watch one show, they've heard us talk for half an hour.
Sure.
But we may have only had a 5-minute phone conversation with them. So when we get out and meet them at that first house, they're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm like, so familiar. What is that?
Right.
like, oh, you want a hug? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's the way that it's supposed to work.
It is.
And then in the second half of the show, what we always do is we talk about, like last week, we talked about interest rates are rising and what does that do to your buying capability.
Love that.
And also, what does it do as far as monthly? But then we've done fun stuff, as we had a lady on the show that built chicken coops. And we had her on the show when we talked about that.
That's fantastic.
And it's just like to bring things to you that are both educational and fun, and what's local. We really like to use local people. There was a guy in McKinney that had a store in downtown McKinney, and he built Murphy beds, and he built the best Murphy beds.
They were incredible.
And we just thought it'd be so fun to bring that on, because saving space. How do you transition a 3-bedroom, but you don't need that bed always out? You could use it as an office or as a kid's room, make it more of a playroom, and they just sleep in the playroom. So again, we're just trying to think of different ways.
Very creative.
Get that content out in front of people and let them know that we think differently So
And it all becomes searchable. You know, it's all.
Yep.
It's anybody.
Well, it's where you need to be. You don't necessarily have to do a podcast, but you need to be doing video on social media. I talk about this all of the time. So, if you want your people to see you, this is where they're going to see you.
Yeah.
And continuity is the key. Continuity is because you become more comfortable over time doing it.
Absolutely.
I know just the weeks that we don't do a show where we'll skip over a holiday or Christmas or something, and we come back that second week. Hey, I gotta remember how to do it. It's not,
because it's a fast conversation.
Yeah, it is a fast conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you brought up fun.
Yeah.
And so I decided I wanted to have just a quick second of fun with you guys today. No big deal.
Okay.
It's just,
Okay.
I'm going to give Jeff a hard time because I can, because it's my show.
You should. Please, I'm all ears. Go right
So,
ahead.
Weston, we're going to play a little game today. 2 pictures are going to go up on the screen, and it is your job to identify what is missing from the pictures.
Okay.
There's picture 1.
Okay.
Jeff already knows what I'm talking about.
I know
And
exactly
there's
what you're
picture 2. What is missing from the pictures? Andrew, go back to the first one again.
Jeff does not have a number. I think someone may have jumped in at the end.
So these pictures come up on our news feed, our Facebook feed every year, and one of them magically will come up and say, and Jeff will say, "What a great race we ran for the beads."
The craziest thing is that who would run a 5K with beads around their neck? I would lose my mind.
Yep.
No, that's so funny.
So that is hilarious. I believe there's actually a third picture that I was
I think there was, yeah.
that I'm trying to find. So this was 2012 and
God.
2013.
That's so funny.
Look how we look like babies.
Oh my gosh.
But when I was working for Arch, I sponsored
Oh yeah.
people to run the race because I think it was a charitable fundraiser,
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
it? And so I paid for Jeff to not run that race for 3 years.
Yeah. Running is not my forte. I only run to be chased.
If you can't be an athlete, be an athletic supporter.
So that was a little bit of fun that I wanted to have today just because I couldn't resist.
That's awesome. So good.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on our show today. It's always great to see you guys. I love you very much. And so thank you for joining us on another episode. Again, if you like our content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation started about how we can work together. You guys make it a great day.